and I'll hand that out shortly.
Yeah.
Just can I say something that the SAVE team and the appellant team have been discussing in relation to carbon,
Yes, please.
because it goes to where you might go tomorrow.
Okay.
And we've reached a position whereby we think Mr. Fraser's got to deal with his team, but we've reached a position whereby we think it's very likely that we can deal with it by way of a statement of common ground.
Right.
And almost certainly written representations as to the difference. So you won't need to hear from the witnesses.
Fine.
We also think that you can be assisted sufficiently by the planning witnesses on the balance of the issues, setting aside the methodological issue. That's not a settled position, but I think it's settled enough for Mr. Fraser not to be here, and for us to agree that should you think it appropriate, that you could use tomorrow for the unaccompanied visit.
Yeah.
And what the two witnesses have done is they've put together a detailed plan with views that they want you to look at and a route map.
Splendid.
This has been emailed to you as well.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move down the other end of the table, and my little friend Sergeant is going to deal with these matters. Right.
Splendid. So conditions and the 106. Any preference to which we take first? 1.5 dozen of the others. Yeah. Conditions first. Okay. So would someone on the council side please like to lead, quickly summarise each condition and tell me why you think it's necessary?
I'm not ready to welcome.
Thank you, sir. So you've got the conditions that are referred to attached to the statement of common reference.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Mike Walton.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got them.
Yeah. So there's 34 conditions there. I should say at the outset that these have all been agreed with the applicant.
Okay.
Just to note at the start that there is a typing error in the numbering. You note that there's no condition 13. This was the draft decision notice that was presented to the committee. It was an logical condition that's been removed because
there may be some redrafting.
Okay.
So it can do.
Okay. All right. Well, a lot of these conditions are not bespoke to the site, the general conditions.
Okay.
So hopefully we can quickly whiz through those. But so condition 1, I won't read it out in full. It's a condition that requires the development to be carried out in accordance with the approved drawings. The reason for that is for avoidance of doubt in the interests of proper planning.
Happy with the reason. The drawings are listed above rather than under the condition. Any particular reason for that?
That is the normal way that we do it.
Okay.
On Westminster decision notices.
Okay. Fine.
Obviously, that can be amended if you want the drawing numbers to be
Well, it's just
specifically stipulated in the
clarity.
It isn't on any other decision that we.
If you're satisfied, I have no reason we are against that. What I would also say at the outset is that there does have to be a commencement condition.
The city, sorry to speak for the city council, but from my understanding, in relation to time limits, so I think referring to the city council policy, as I understand it, is not to impose those. Let the statutory defaults kick in, such that they're then imposed in that sense, if you like. But I'll stand corrected by
Right. If that's the case, why are they included in the vast majority?
It's all decision from the city council. That's our standard practice.
You rely on the default
position.
Okay.
But suffice to say, from the applicant's point of view,
You don't care.
yeah.
Okay. Fine. Understood. So let's move on then.
The second condition relates to hours of building works. Again, this is a standard condition that we put on all developments that involves works. So the standard hours are 8 till 6 Monday to Friday, 8 till 1 on Saturday, not till on Sundays and bank holidays. There isn't a significant amount. There is some residential in the city side, but not on Portland Mews South and Park House on the northern side of Oxford Street. But maybe unusually for a site in the West End, there's very little residential in close proximity, but we still feel it's necessary to have that condition on.
Okay, and it's slightly different for piling. It's not Saturday.
Yeah. And obviously, the reason is to protect residential amenity.
Yeah.
The third condition, again, is to protect residential amenity. It requires the applicant to engage with the City Council's environmental science team. This is a condition that we put on for all major redevelopment proposals.
Okay, there's a few extra commas and things in that. It would help me, please, if I could have the conditions as a Word document. Okay, so moving on to 4.
The fourth condition is a design-based design reason for the condition. It requires samples of facing materials, including glazing and elevations and roof plans, undertaken to show where the materials are to be located, to be submitted to the council for approval.
Another sort of general comment is that it's the conditions are written in the sense of you and we and so on. This one ends. We mustn't start work until we have approved in writing what you have sent us. If it could sort of be rewritten in the third person, that would help me, please. Then I don't have to redraft it, and I'm not likely to make more typos.
That's fine.
Thank you. So moving on to number 5.
Number 5 is relates to noise from plants. Again, it's a standard wording. It's a very technical condition,
It is.
but it is a standard condition that we put on all applications that involve plants. And again, the reason is to protect residential amenity.
Right.
In essence, complying with the condition means that the operation of the plants would not be audible outside the site, the boundary site.
Right. Yeah. Well, it is very, very lengthy. But, moving on to number 6.
Number 6 again refers to
Vibration
noise.
rather than noise.
Yeah. Again, it's a standard condition that we put on developments that involve the provision of plants. And the reason is, again, to protect them.
Okay, 7.
7 requires details of waste storage to be submitted. The storage facilities are shown on the drawing, which is referenced in the condition, and we require that to be provided prior to the building being occupied.
Fine.
8 is linked to that. It's a prescriptive condition that prevents waste being left on the highway.
Thank you. 9.
9, the application drawings included 695 cycle spaces as basement level.
Yeah.
Condition 9 requires those to be provided prior to occupation
And more importantly, retention.
and retained.
Thank you. 10.
Then relates to servicing. So it's put this condition linked to condition 18 of the servicing management plan. What we're saying here is that all servicing should take place within the servicing bay. which runs on to Portland New South.
I will show that. 11,
11 relates to the highway, and it's again, prescriptive conditions says that doors and gates should not open over the pavement.
do the drawings not show exactly where doors would open and close?
They do, and could say that, or could question whether that condition's required because of condition 1, that the scheme needs to be.
I do.
Conforms with the drawings.
Have a think about that, will you, please? Sergeant, any thoughts on that? 12. 12 is the Briam one.
12 is 3 and 1. So obviously there's a BREEAM assessment submitted with the application, which indicated that the development would achieve outstanding for office and excellent for retail space. A condition that is achieved.
And yeah, forcing that one. 13, as you mentioned. is not
13, yeah,
used.
no longer required.
14, now this is a pre-commencement condition. Has the applicant set out in a letter that they're acceptable?
No, we haven't said that in writing, although the technical ground.
We will.
Yes,
We'll submit that for you soon.
Thank you. And you're content with the pre-commencement condition on that basis?
Yes, yeah.
Demolition work. 15.
15 requires demolition, well, prevents demolition work unless it's part of a complete development of the site. So, see, that's a
Right.
design.
How are you going to enforce complete development of the site? I mean, I've
Yes, so
I've seen conditions that require contract for the works to be let before demolition begins, but that's not what we've got here.
I think inevitably so that there is a difficulty inevitably in enforcing if in a scenario such as an economic recession, such a portion of the site became vacant, then there would obviously be difficulties. But as the NPPF points out, that there should be sufficient conditions in place to be secured in the normal circumstances. Development is completed as soon as possible after the commencement of demolition. So
That's right, and usually as you say, there's difficulty with enforcement if something drastic happens, but the usual condition says that the contract must be let for the redevelopment before demolition starts.
yes, I take that point. So I think probably that if we were satisfied and used the Secretary of State, I think we're satisfied that condition 14 covered those eventualities, then condition 15 wouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, so yeah, that is exactly the one, isn't it? So on that basis, 15 is unnecessary, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
So we agree that reading that, I can't see what it adds to condition 14.
Okay, so there's then another gap where 15 was.
This is the type in error. You've got, sorry. Thank you. You've got the reason for the condition. But the actual condition number 16 isn't brought through from the draft decision notice to the decision notice of the statement of common ground.
So the condition was on public art,
It works on public art,
so does that need to go back?
so it needs to go
I
back.
think I have read it, maybe I've read the other.
It's in, yeah, it's in the,
It is in the statement on the ground. Although there's a typo, which means it goes immediately after the reason, condition 15, but you'll.
Okay, so it's another thing just to tidy up, please. 17.
17 likewise. Details of the lighting strategy to to be approved, and the basis behind that is again a design reason to ensure that the.
Okay, this says, this refers to all lighting. Is it all lighting you want control, or just that outside?
Just outside.
Okay. In which case I'm then the reasons. 18.
18 requires a service and management plan to be submitted and approved. Subsidiaries to avoid blocking surrounding streets.
19.
19 requires a detailed drawings of biodiversity management plan in relation to the green roofs terraces to be approved.
Okay.
I'm happy to the extent of green, but we don't want to see brown.
And you've got retain and maintain. So
Yeah.
That's fine. 20.
20,
Clause 1.
20 is a bespoke condition to the application. The application drawings show potentially a restaurant area from to Granville Place. And then retail at low ground and first floors and didn't. And then general class C is the remains of the building. What this condition does is say that the area that's shaded green
Right.
shall only be used for retail, restaurant or indoor sport recreation facilities. So it's to ensure that those areas are providing active frontage and service to visiting members of the public.
Okay.
And then the second on to that condition is that relates specifically to the potential restaurant cafe area. We're requiring the management plan to be submitted and approved prior to that use being implemented. So they're the two ons to that condition.
21.
21 again is bespoke to the application. And as I said, it's area at lower ground and first floor.
Again, it's used classes.
Yeah. Which is the area that it's hoped would be occupied by Marks and Spencers. Because the site's on the international frontage, we're seeking to limit that use to retail. But it owns these not public services within Class C.
Okay, and then 22 is another use classes one. Any reason why these are split between 3 different conditions?
I think it's for clarity purposes, really. It's just
Really?
I think 22 is for the entire building, isn't it?
It is.
It's for the remainder, so it restricts the use classes for the remaining
Right.
floors. We did discuss whether there was some inherent tension between 20 and 21, in the sense that 22 is generally drafted,
Yes.
and then obviously 20 and 21 are more specific. So
My initial thought is that there's tension between a lot of them, and
Yeah.
it would be clearer to say the use classes must be, notwithstanding the order, the uses must be, must actually tabulate what the use of each area is. To my work, that would be much better. I'll leave you to have a go.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the applicant, but I'm not sure that would give them the flexibility that they're looking for in terms of uses within the building.
No, but I
I think
think what's
it's-
being suggested is that we redraft
Yeah.
the substance of what's there into a format that's easier to read.
and ideally within one condition.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
fewer words, the clearer it is. 23, we're talking about primary cooking, raw or fresh food.
It's a standard condition that we put on cafes and restaurants where there is going to be primary cooking, and we'll try to see details how that's going to be benefit. Okay. 24 is the request of the GLA.
Okay, well, we may, the document that I'm going to be presented with next week, the further statement common ground, we may need to cover this point. Set out if there's agreement in what won't be done. And then there's a 5 is a post-completion report. That requires the report. Does it require that it meets a certain standard?
The condition, the wording of the condition doesn't, but it needs to be approved. So,
Isn't that the GLA standard wording
It is.
that they recommended?
Right. Doesn't automatically guarantee it. Makes sense.
But it requires. it to be
And
sent
actual
to
performance.
GLA, I think. Oh, in terms of performance afterwards.
Yeah, so it'll say what performance has been achieved. I think, here we go. Install numerical targets in the, should be submitted to. Yeah,
This is just the BC provide information.
right, okay.
Monitoring. It's not a compliance condition other than in regard of positive
So
information.
which is the compliance condition, the 24?
Well, the section 106 will come on to does put the other side of the mirror on these.
So if it's in the 106, do we need a condition or do we need it? Or is it the other way around?
Question. So they're doing different things. On certain economy, whereas the section 106 is dealing with regulation.
Right, okay. So what you're saying is the 106 will require the standard to be met, and this is just requiring the information to be submitted.
This is specific. The circular economy statement that the 106 is specific in relation to the regulated carbon emissions built in the energy strategy. We can go into that in a minute, but this is.
I'm just trying to get at what does this actually require? It requires the template to be completed in 24 and then the report to be submitted in 25. But where are the standards that it has to meet?
Yeah, so these are monitoring. I know you're using a point, sir, but these are both monitoring rather than
Exactly.
hard edge them rather than getting information.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the template is in a way the standard that has to be met because it's the template is the GLA's document.
Right.
So looking at 24, by filling in that template, that's how you provide, the requisite information to satisfy the GLA.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is what requires you to satisfy the GLA. Is that in there somewhere?
I mean, it requires you to submit it to the GLA.
Yeah, approved in writing, but I'm not sure what's being approved in writing. The fact that you submitted it or contents of it.
I believe it is as with the previous stage, it's that the template has been filled out properly, so they've got all the information which the template requires.
I understand that, and then the report going to the next step as well. But where are the standards?
It's a reporting tool alone.
Yeah.
It's only provided some information, it's not by compliance.
No, so the reason says in the interest of sustainable development and to maximise on-site carbon dioxide savings. But is it actually providing that?
Like, I think it's this bit here against all numerical targets in the relevant circular economy statements. Within condition 25. So I think that's the part that you're responding to, following on from, I suppose, the information that's been provided during the application stage.
So thank you for pointing that out. So it says the report setting out the predicted and actual performance against the targets. Does it actually say it has to meet the targets?
It needs to be improved, doesn't it? So we would, when we would consult with the GLA, and that it does need approval.
Approval price of occupation. Okay.
Julie,
That's relevant to
Excuse
both
me.
conditions 24 and 25.
excuse me, sir,
Yes.
we would just like to make a quick comment, please.
Right. And so, sorry, who are you?
So, thank you. Julie Goffin, one of the witnesses at SAFE on the whole carbon
Okay.
assessment.
Yeah.
You're right to have picked up on the fact that it's not only about the assessment, there's a certain level that needs to be met. And not only would we expect the targets from the GLA to be met, but there's also a commitment by the applicant to improve on what they have already submitted.
Right.
They've actually, in their proof of evidence, committed to further savings compared to what was initially submitted. So it's not
Right.
just about meeting the initial target. So that's the point, the first point, the levels that need to be achieved need to be conditioned.
Yes.
The other point I would make is that this is a very theoretical thing to condition, because if carbon has been overspent, it's spent. There is no way to retrieve it, really. So if the post-completion assessment showed that the target has been exceeded, so what?
Well, yeah. So how is it enforceable?
There is no reason.
So there's two things there. One is how it's what are the expected targets, and the other thing is if it's going beyond those targets, it's probably not reasonable for a commitment to go beyond the targets to be included in a condition. That would probably have to be in a 106.
I don't accept the assertion that there is a commitment in the proof, an actual commitment to go beyond the targets. I think there's an explanation in the proof that essentially we are currently at stage 2 of the design process.
Right.
And obviously, as the design evolves, it may be that additional savings are able to be secured, but that's as far as it's put in proof of evidence.
The proof of evidence itself suggests it could be conditioned. I can find the exact reference.
No, I'm aware of that. Thank you, Dr. Godfrey, but it's not a commitment saying we will.
It's a
that if
suggestion.
we might, and if we do, then that can be worked out through conditions. So, I can see that.
Okay. So this needs a little thinking about. You could all go away and have a think about that, please. Keep in touch with each other. Right. So 26.
26.
Fire statement.
Yeah. Development the carried out the codes with the approved fire statement. So I'm conscious of the fact that the application documents refer to drawings only, given that we've got this condition. Suggest that the fire statement is included as one of those documents.
Right. So you want the condition to refer to the particular statement?
What I was suggesting to you that the fire statement is listed along with the drawings.
That's good drawings. Okay. And it could do with fairly self-explanatory, but it could do with the reason at the remaining conditions.
Yeah.
Attached.
Right, conditions 26 to 33 don't have reasons in the.
So if you could add those,
Yeah.
please. I'd like to ask for a final travel plan. It's 27. Are you trying to say that before the development's occupied, the travel plan must have been submitted and approved in writing by the local planning authority? Is that what it's trying to say?
Well, that's what they did say. Yes.
28.
28 because approval of the construction logistics plan.
Okay. 29.
29 requires
Another pre-commencement one.
yeah. Again, this is a request of the GLA. Was to ensure there's sufficient living space for full fiber connectivity infrastructure and development.
30. Back to sustainability measures.
30 is secure sustainability measures at the bottom of the application.
31.
31 relates to the hours of use of terraces at 6, 7, 8, and 4 levels
of interested neighbours.
for amenity reasons.
32 is the clock, which is to be repositioned.
That's correct.
33.
Sorry, can I just add a point on 32?
Please.
I think looking at it now, it needs updating because in the committee minutes on CD 03.04, I think the committee requested to add the M&S and the night head as well.
Yes, I believe that's right.
Yes.
So those details we can add into that.
Yeah.
Lovely,
Thank you.
for that. 33. Carbon stop landscaping scheme. Does that apply to the roof terraces as well as everything else?
Just reading it. I don't think it was intended to.
Again, sorry, Mike, on the minutes, I think it was intended to update that to include the terraces in 3.04.
Okay. 34. Retractable shop front awnings. Are there any proposed?
Yes, we have canvas awnings.
Oh, right, okay, thank you. So it needs something to, didn't spot them on the model, maybe they are.
If not, we'll have them there by next week, so.
Only retractable? Okay. So, ends at 34, is that correct? That's right. Okay, so anything else on conditions? Any?
Again, sorry.
No worries.
5 awnings on the,
Oh, it's fine.
five awnings on the model at the minute.
Thank you. I'm going to have a look in a minute.
There was just a couple of final points. We should have picked them up earlier, sorry. It's
No worries.
on the minutes again, 3.04. We need to add the urban greening factor compliance condition. And they also requested we complied with the, bear with me, I just forget the wording of this one, crime security, designing out crime security measures. That's 0.7 on the minutes. Just so we can wrap those all up. That's all from me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Who's taking the lead on redrafting these?
Well, I think we will, so.
Splendid. If you could get them done by the end of tomorrow, that would be very helpful. Fantastic, thank you. So, moving on to the second 106.
Excuse me, sorry, may I just request that we are also, we have cited those that we can comment specifically on sustainability on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Circulation list then.
Yeah.
So.
So sorry, I will do our best and I race to happen to be by close of play tomorrow, but
I'm not after a guarantee, it's just a steer if you can. So moving on to the 106, who wants to take the lead on this one?
I am taking the lead, so
Remind me of your name.
Roy Benson's. So it's immersively small special agreements. Now I will had it printed this morning when this is on and realised that it's quite standard. So I'll deal with it fairly briefly, and if you have questions, I'll pick those up as we go. I'll focus on the schedule on obligations because that's really where the action is. Just a note on the first page, the title. It is set out in the note that you obviously previously, I hope, and I'd be able to if you like, the summary regulation 122.
I've got that.
Yeah. So we have Portland State, who are the freeholder, and then Redemption Fund, Royal London, which has an intermediate condition under which Marks and Spencer then has the so that's that. And then if we go to schedule 1, which is probably the easiest thing to do, and that's on page 14. Well, I'd be sorry to jump you around. It's easy to actually, I don't try to go through the definitions, but there are a couple of changes which I've agreed with Medicine, who was the accountant solicitor earlier on, which is quite graphical really. So clause 3, which is on page 11, standard clause, just making clear that the obligations themselves, there's one in 5.1a, which is the obligation to a condition on the grant of permission and on commencement of demolition. I did notice earlier that we do have 2 obligations in the schedule which are actually coming into effect. Even sort of monitoring before that because they relate to commencement of demolition itself. So there'll be a minor amendment which has been agreed with the council just to make clear in that clause 3 that those 2 items, that's paragraph 1 of schedule 1, paragraph 3.1 of schedule 1, both things needing to be done before demolition, but those come into effect.
Before you move on, there's just one thing I noticed that Planning Commission, you're, I believe, going to change the agreement, change the description to include the basements. So that would need doing, and property here is identified as 456 to 472, but planning application just gives the 1 number. So I don't know if you want to change that as well, if you're changing the description.
Yeah, we can sort of conform that between the bugbear that's been described in many different ways throughout the process. So
it can be common ground as to what the description is and what the address is, and that then runs through to the 106 type.
Thank you. You do that. Then if we go to schedule 1, first paragraph, we've got restriction on demolition until we're stocking up what confirmed in the plan, which illustrates the stocking up areas. It's contained. It's the 3rd plan into the agreement, right? And it's heavy hold out, so you can see it's got some very slender shaded areas. Just shows the area where the highway has been adjusted effectively. There's some give and take effectively, but there's a payment being made in relation to the cost of that stocking up. Standard stuff, and then we'd have payments which are triggered at commencement, employment skills contribution, cycle parking, stocking up water costs component, and we've got the employment skills contribution and then a restriction on those paragraph 2.2. So again, fairly standard, and I won't go through all of the drafting of the employment skills plan. But as the summary says, there's an element of that for the demolition phase, for the construction phase, and for the increase phase, which secures, I suppose, an element of additionality to local employment. The energy strategy, carbon offset, we've just spoken about the conditions element of that. If I just sort of take you through, I suppose what that's doing is in two parts. The first part is an update to the energy strategy around commencement. And that is really asking the applicant to sort of see where it's got to in, I suppose, the stage 3 design process. And it's got an incentive there of £95 index linked per carbon tonne, which is below the net zero standard set out in the London Plan Policy. So for every, I'm sure you'll be familiar with this from the scheme, but for every carbon tonne that the scheme is underperforming against that policy threshold net zero, then it pays £95 per carbon tonne over a 30-year period. The definition for calculating that's set out paragraph 4.3.1 on page 16. Yeah.
Thank you.
So then the applicant is incentivised in the stage 3 process to squeeze the pits, I suppose, and the contribution therefore is not defined at the moment. It would be whatever it is that can be mitigated by the stage 3 design process. The next element is BC and GLA parliaments, and has a few components. The first, which is immediately after this agreement, to provide further information, even further information on energy performance indicators.
Right.
And then there's a preoccupation requirement, essentially to give estimates as they then stand. And again, that's based on the requirements that have been achieved in the stage 3 design process, and indeed through construction itself, preoccupation, to provide energy performance indicators in line with the relevant guidance. And the purpose of that is twofold. The first is monitoring, but using the time process to gather information about how buildings actually perform. It's also to form tenants, I think, occupiers, so that they understand what they're getting into, and therefore incentivise those who are building these buildings to do the best job that they can. And then fundamentally, 5.1.4, there's mentioned commitment earlier in terms of achieving more. Well, this holds to account the energy performance element by assessing actual energy performance against the estimates that were given at the preoccupation stage. There's a cross-reference which should be corrected and has been in the version that I've agreed with the myself and the council. And in 5.1.4, that second reference to 5.1.3, that should be 5.1.2.1. Could just be an A, but there you go. My document. But that's because the estimate's been given under that 5.1.2.1, so it's just a straight typo. And then it runs on from that, but the operator, the owner of the site, is required to use reasonable endeavours to investigate and effectively rectify underperformance against the only other one I was going to specifically raise your attention is in relation to the highways agreement that has to be entered into. So I should have said that under paragraph 1, back on page 14, paragraph 2. The highways works agreement has to be entered into before demolition works commenced. Highways works are those definitions on page 6 in due course. But the plan is a bit more helpful in some way, indicative illustrations of the kind of work which are going to be required by under the supervision of the City Council's highway relevant part. Grey washed extent, you've got the red line boundary the site.
Yeah.
But then within those grey areas, that is where the authority is going to be required before commencement of demolition that the highways works set out in detail. Right. But as part of that, we'll see within the highways works agreement definition on page 6, there is a proviso related to the contribution. And that's because the highways works kind of have two forms. The highways works we see on the plan, grey wash, are those which are going to have an agreement put in place and then be carried out. And then there is an aspiration to be described in evidence, link the east-west route on East Granville Place with a pedestrian crossing. But that's the city council's business, if you like, to do that. That's what they choose in counting the wider OSD activities. But the agreement provides for a cap contribution of £250,000
Under the 278.
for that to happen. Let's just explain why that's there. And the council put out this afternoon, and agreed that that figure should be index linked in amendment. So that the actual index itself just needs to be agreed, which I'm sure we'll get to tomorrow morning. That was really it, unless you had other questions.
The only other point that I wanted to raise, and this isn't a requirement, it's just a question as whether you thought about it, is whether there's anything that would say that the architect would be retained, providing that's reasonably.
Sure, Phil Rose would accept that.
It's become a commonplace.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly happened. And so I just raised whether you want consideration to.
We certainly got 27.
Anything else from anybody?
So not from the panel, thank you.
Okay, well, in that case, I've got my homework for various unaccompanied site visits. Is there anything else before we adjourn and resume next Tuesday? Then until 10 o'clock next Tuesday, in this room, I take it, the inquiries again.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought we could compare. No.
No, because of various reasons, which happily coincide with Mr. Harris going to a Diamond West. So, no, I'll be doing my site visits tomorrow instead, because the